Yep. Oh, we are? Top notch. Man, listen, I'm disappointed in my team. I tell you this, man. My team's falling apart. They can't beat the Orlando Magic. In the series, they're 3-0. The Orlando Magic beat them every single game in the first stretch of the year, which is pathetic. So, like, if it gets to the playoff line and they're trying to get a better seeding than them, they just won't be able to. And we all know it's going to be close down the stretch, right? But not only that, though, right? The Miami Heat had a good start, right? They played their best basketball in that first quarter. But Orlando said, you know what? We'll let you get that 15, 16 point lead. And we're going to somehow, not somehow, they're going to win the game and pretty much dominate you through everything that you could possibly think of. They dominated you in, right? Like you got outbeat second, third, and fourth quarter. Desmond Bain just didn't miss. Jalen Suggs was hitting big shots, right? Tristan Da Silva, Anthony Black, Wendell Carter. They just was playing team basketball. And the Miami Heat, like I'm starting to, you know, be nervous a little bit because I feel like the defense, they're watching film and slowing us down. That's the reason why the Heat are in a 4 game losing streak. Like we just can't hit shots, right? It was 8 for 33 at the 3 point line. Tyler Hero was 0 for 6. He was one shot, 1 3 away. Khristopher for hitting 1,000 3 pointers, couldn't even hit one. Norman Powell airballing threes, and it's like, our bench unit, which was one of the better bench units to start the year, is falling apart. Simone can't hit a shot. Jovic is unplayable. DMPs. So, the team, the stuff that we was doing well in the beginning, we're not doing well no more. So I don't know if this is a fluke. I don't know if this was just a hot start or we're just struggling right now. I think my big question with Orlando is, can they play well all together? I think they've been playing well, with one player being out. Like example, Paolo Banchero was out due to injury. He's finally back, but then Franz got injured, and they're still playing well because Bain is playing well. So can they all piece it up together? Because I think that's the main goal for them to try to go out there and win the Eastern Conference. If they can figure that out, I mean, this team is pretty stacked, right? Jalen Suggs is coming back into what we all know about Jalen Suggs, right? Anthony Black is having that most improved year, right? Having that taking that next step. Even Tristan DeSilva, man. So you kind of like with the Orlando Magic are doing in the Eastern Conference. And I'm looking forward to. I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it. So, but I'm looking forward to that Knicks and Orlando Magic matchup because those are
Right.
two hot teams right now in the East that will probably see each other in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the wild part is that the Eastern Conference has been so up and down, right? Where there are a number of teams that are good, but they're not, but there haven't necessarily been any OKCs where you just feel like this is the big bad team in the Eastern Conference, right? Like the Celtics earlier in the season didn't look very good. I wasn't that high on them going into the season, but now they've won 5 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Obviously, Tatum hasn't played, but Jaylen Brown's looked like a superstar, right? Jordan Walsh has come in defensively. Peyton Pritchard and Derek White, some of the guys who were struggling early, now they figured it out. So the Eastern Conference is still kind of up for grabs. But like I said, it's just from the Magic perspective, it was really disappointing to see where they started off. But now they're here and they're playing a lot better. And then as for the Miami Heat, like you mentioned, they've been in a little bit of a slide. But that was a team where you probably going into the season didn't expect them up at the top. So like, what do you look at for the Heat going into, because we're getting close to December 15th and January 15th? Do you look at them as a buyer, right? Did you go into the season with them as a buyer, or, are you kind of going the opposite direction with them? Or do you just kind of want to see what they have?
Yeah, no, honestly, I didn't go into the season as them as a buyer. I actually thought they were going to be horrible this year. They made minor moves, right? They added players like Norman Powell for the cheap. Davion, they got him to extension. So, just looking what we got this year to see, if we could compete or not. And then I think the expectations to start the year, they were so amazing. And that kind of pushed the narrative like, oh, maybe they're a contender in the Eastern Conference. I still think they're a contender, but I think their main objective, their main goal is pushing for 26, 27 for agency, free as much cap space. But the problem with that is free agency just doesn't exist no more. It's not back in the day where free agency used to be hot and you wait up to 12 at night to see the big signings.
Right.
That doesn't happen no more. With the new CBA rules. So I think it's just more like building up draft capital and, trying to make that big trade for that star guy, the Giannis's, the Anthony Edwards. I don't think the Jaws make the cut, the LaMelos or Zions. Those could be buy low candidates, but if you want a type superstar, like the Giannis, I think, it's going to take a lot to get that. So I think they're going to play it out, see what happens. I think the Terry Rozier, the league got to figure out what they got to do with that because he's on an expiring $26 million deal, which can, help this team out a lot in a trade, right? You got the Jovic piece. But outside of that, man, it's like either trade Tyler Hero or just kind of stay with the roster that you got and hope that they can turn around and fix things up, having, one of the better coaches in the league in Spo.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that's kind of how you have to look at it, where if you're the Heat, you just kind of have to take it one step at a time and kind of just see where you are, right? Because you didn't necessarily know what they were going to be like going into the season. And like you said, the early start may have kind of given you maybe a little bit more of a optimistic sense of what they could really be. But, either way, this looks like a team that looks like a playoff team, right? It doesn't feel like that they're a team that's just going to, kind of fall out and then just be like a lottery team. They look like they have at least a good foundation there, right? With the way that a lot of these guys have played. And, it's an adjustment, right? Because they didn't have Hero to begin the season, right? And then he comes back in, and now you have to kind of shake things up a little bit. Now guys' roles are different. Do you still believe in the two big lineup with them, with Bam and Ware?
I do, but Spo doesn't trust it at all. And I think Spo is actually is going to really affect Kel'el Ware's career. Because, dude, Kel'el Ware, you got to let him play through his ups and downs, but Spo doesn't allow that. Today he had 12 minutes. That's unacceptable for a team that Orlando, they're a little bigger than us, right? Miami is a very small team, and having Kel'el Ware play 12 minutes, especially when Jovic is not playing and Pallette Larson's out due to injury, is pretty much pathetic. So I don't know, man. Like it's tough. Like offensively, it doesn't work as well. Defensively, obviously, it's better. So they're trying to find that groove. But honestly, the problem is the starting lineup is a big problem. I think what they need to roll out there is having Davion, right? Have Davion at the one. Have Tyler at the two, Wiggs at the three, Bam and Kalel at the five. Like that's what I'm running, and then have Norm come off the bench. I think that's a better team and
Mm-hmm.
better spaced out, like better. What's that word? I think
Just balance.
it make more sense for better, like a better unit for come off the bench and stars
Mm-hmm.
because Tyler and Norm can't play together. You know they've been trying to stagger their minutes together. It's just not working out very well. And that's a huge concern to me because obviously those are our better scorers, and they can't figure it out, it's going to be a long season. So, I think Ware needs to start, especially when you go in the playoffs. Like, you're not just going to be able to play small ball lineup. Like, this isn't the Golden State Warriors where Dre's at the five and you have Iggy out there and,
Mm-hmm.
Barboza and Clay. Like,
Right.
the lineups that they can run back in the day, that doesn't exist no more, right? Like, when you look at the bigger teams like, the Denver Nuggets with Jokic, you have to throw two bodies at them. Look at the Lakers, even with Aiton and just Aiton being there, his size, right? Go Rudy Gobert. Um, you just can't be a small team nowadays. So hopefully Spo figures out, but I don't know if he will, and I don't think he has enough. I don't want to use profanity, but I don't think he has enough I don't think he has enough courage to bench Tyler or bench Norm. I think he's too scared to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's the tough part, right? Because you didn't give up anything to get Powell, and he was a starter last year. He's also in a contract year, right? So he probably doesn't really wouldn't love the idea of coming off the bench after being a first time starter last year. So it's just tricky. So it's a lot of different things to balance. So I am curious to see where they go from here. But I guess how excited were you, right, going into this game, right? In terms of like did you want them to go to Vegas and with the potential to, win the NBA Cup, or is it more so just like we're playing against the Magic, a rival team in the Eastern Conference. Let's see how we stack up against them and, kind of go from there and then evaluate.
No, like of course, like being a Heat fan, like you want your team to go out there and win and compete and beat the team that you have to see in the playoffs or potentially in the playoffs. And the fact is, they beat us twice already, so this would have been the third game, and they just beat us recently. And so I'm just like, man, we got to get our get back. And the fact that we started off strong and then let up in the second, third, and fourth quarter just is embarrassing. Like this team is bad right now, and so we got to get it together, right? Like there's no excuses. Like this is for money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if like this is not a regular season game, my man. Like this is for money. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So like money. Like some people don't agree, but I think money rules the world. So like more money. Let's compete. Let's go out there and win games. Like I'm not the biggest cup person. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
But these people out there that are competing, they should because this is a race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Right. So,
it's tough losing to the Magic every single year. I feel like they just own us at this point.
yeah. I mean, and like I said, they've played really well and they've kind of figured out their identity. So now they're just kind of moving on from here. So now I guess the next question, as we move on, so let's go to the other game, right? And that was the Knicks and Raptors, right? This one, in fairness to Toronto, right? They're down two starters, right? So it's a lot tougher to compete when you're a little bit more shorthanded. But, I still feel like at full strength, the Knicks would be the better team. But in this game, to the Raptors' credit, right, they threw the first punch early in the game where Ingram goes off as like 17 in the first quarter, but Brunson was right there with him where he had 20 in the first quarter. He had 26 at halftime, so basically met his averages. And then from there on out, pretty much everybody else, contributed in one way, shape, or another, right? Like Mikal Bridges chipped in with 15, 5, and 4, right? Karl Anthony Towns had 16 rebounds, right? Only 14 points on 4 of 11, but still, chipped in with the rebounding and had a couple blocks too, right? OG Anunoby with 13 and 6, 2 steals, 2 blocks, just terrorizing the Raptors on the defensive end. And Josh Hart, right, who's now back in the starting lineup. They've kind of abandoned starting the two bigs, where now he's back in there. He had 21 and 6 rebounds, 4 of 7 from 3. So it is kind of interesting now how they've shifted back to the old reliable starting five, right? Because last year, that starting five was a little bit more of a negative, and then come playoff time, it really became a problem, right? Because Hart, was coming off the bench by the end of the series. So now they've kind of figured out and reestablished everything that's been going for them. And the Knicks, they've also been another team that's been rolling, right? They're what, 8-2 in their last 10. So they're 16-7. They're sitting at second in the Eastern Conference, right behind the Detroit Pistons. And then if you look at their offense and defense, they're third in offensive rating. And then defensively, right, they're 14th. So and part of that was because I think early on in the season it was pretty bad, right? But I think it's stabilized a little bit more, right? Like in the last 10 games, they're 10th in defensive rating and then third in offensive rating. So at the very least, like, the defense has gotten better to the point where it's at least average. Worst case scenario, against some teams, it'll probably look worse. And then on the offensive end, right, they've been great, right? Where, now they're getting up more threes. And going into the season, Yarby and I kind of talked about a little bit more balance offensively for them, where, everybody's kind of getting touches, everybody's kind of getting opportunities, because they have good offensive players on the team, right? They're not necessarily like number one options outside of Brunson, but they are guys where if they get their opportunities, they can capitalize on it. And you've been seeing that a lot more. It's still not very deep, right? But Clarkson comes off the bench. Robinson didn't do quite as much in this game, but they didn't really need it necessarily. And you're just kind of hoping that like a couple of guys can come off the bench every night and just kind of give you something, right? So it's like starting five, Mitchell Robinson with his backup big minutes, and he'll sometimes play with Towns and sometimes he won't. And then, Clarkson, and then after that, Yabusele hasn't been quite as helpful this season, I think, as some people probably would have liked. But I think this Knicks team, this was the team that I had coming out of the East going into the season. So what did you think of their win over the Raptors?
Yeah, man. I like the thing about the Knicks is like they're finally finding their groove, right? Like, they're 16-7, 8-2 in their last 10, like 3-4 game win streak. They beat, even though Toronto has been falling off, they beat us still a good team because like we just talked about this in the episode, maybe episode 2 episodes ago, that Toronto's like one of the hottest teams in the Eastern Conference. Like they're playing really good basketball. So, once again, like these games are always going to be competitive. It's tough, right? Like Toronto don't have two starters, like you said, Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
But New York, man, like they're easily should be the favorites, and I don't like saying that as a Heat fan, but realistically, they should be the favorites, right? They got a new head coach. They have a little bit more depth than previous years, right? Like obviously their starting line was pretty good and stuff, but Jordan Clarkson and Mitchell Robinson, that's 7 players right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Miles McBride is out with injury, so that's easily 8 alone right there. And you're hoping that Yabusele, could play a little bit more minutes on the postseason, like if he continues to get better and play well. So you can go 8 deep, so that's pretty good right there. Like they're one of the deepest teams, and with the Eastern Conference being wide open, this is their year. There's no excuses. So good win for them. Obviously, like I said earlier, they're gonna play the Orlando Magic, so that's gonna be a fun matchup. Two hot teams going at it. It could be the Jalen Brunson versus the Desmond Bain show, Jalen Brunson versus Paolo Banchero, but looking forward to it for sure. And then, like I said, for Toronto, the NBA is weird, man. Like it really is. Like one week you're the hottest team in the league, and next week you're the worst team in the league, right? Like what? They're a 3-4 game losing streak currently right now, and I think it's mainly like due to RJ being out. And it's crazy because a lot of people don't give RJ a lot of credit. But I was going through Twitter and I was like, seeing like about talking about the Raptors a little bit, and they're like, man, having RJ not there is like making the offense more stagnant. Jakob Poeltl isn't playing well. Like he's not getting looks with RJ not being there. So it changes a lot of things. And then obviously not having IQ as a 17-point scorer today affects them too. And I honestly don't think Toronto has the best bench. Like they have pieces that you're hoping that bank out and stuff like that. Like it's funny. No one talks about Grady D no more. He was a lottery pick, I believe. Right? They have Colin Murray Boyles. Jonathan Mogul, but like a lot of just players that are not really proven in my opinion. So, we'll see. They could be, in the rumor mill again, because like Toronto's one of those teams that like always makes a trade out the blue, and you'd be like, huh, why do they do that? Like the Brandon Ingram trade. And so I seen them in discussions for Anthony Davis. So maybe that could be a move right there, because then with a full healthy squad, you go IQ, right? You have RJ, Brandon Ingram, Davis, right? Like in Scotty Barnes, like that's a really you start like okay, now your team's looking good, right? Like you could look at Jakob as more of a backup big now, more than just a starter having AD there, or whatever lineup they really want to go there. You know what I mean? So they have the young pieces that Dallas may be interested in. So that's not a team. That's a team to watch out for AD.
Yeah, I mean, with the Raptors, it just kind of feels like once you've lost a couple guys, then you're just kind of starting to rely on some other guys where just the whole thing kind of falls apart, right? Where it's like, okay, now that we don't have Barrett, now that we don't have Quickly, we don't have the shooters, we don't have the downhill guys, right? We don't have, and then that kind of changes the way you can stagger the lineups with the guys coming off the bench, and then they're probably going to look worse. So they just need to have some of their guys come back, and they may also have been a victim of they got off to a hot start. So maybe they weren't quite as good as we thought that they were going to be, but I still think they're a good team. Like this still feels like a team that should make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, but it is competitive, right? Because the Raptors are 15-10, right? As you mentioned, they've lost now 4 in a row, so they're 15-11. NBA.com just updated, so Knicks are 17-7, 4 in a row, but right behind them are the Sixers, right, who are 13-10. They're 500 in their last 10. Then there's the Cavs, right, who have just kind of, I don't know if quietly is the right word, have just been really underwhelming this year. They're 14-11. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They had probably one of the worst losses of the season that I've seen, where they played the Warriors in Cleveland, where the Warriors basically punted the game, and all their guys are out. Some of they're hurt, but like still they weren't like, if you're Cleveland, you're going in, you should be going, this is a classic trap game, and then they lose, right? Like in the first quarter, it was pretty close, and you're thinking, why is it close anyways? Then they just get blitzed in the second quarter, they get booed at home, and then they kind of fight back, but they haven't had it this year. The magic that they had last year just isn't there, and that's, why, like, if you're the Raptors, like, maybe you do kind of feel like, all right, let's do something to kind of get into the mix and maybe see if we can move up a tier in the Eastern Conference, because the Cavs and the Knicks were looked at as the cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference this year, and it has not worked out that way. Like, it just hasn't.
I'll be honest with you, the Eastern Conference is really bad. Like if you really want to think about it, like Pistons and Knicks and Magic, and even the Magic still have questions, but I think Pistons and Knicks are the top dogs, and then after that, it's just like, can the Heat turn it around? Can the Cavaliers figure it out? Can the 76ers stay healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, can Boston continue to stay hot? Like, look, there's a lot of questions. I mean, Detroit has been consistent all year. New York, New York was rough in the beginning, but like we knew they were going to eventually turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
Like we trust that team. You know what I mean? But like every other team has questions besides those two teams, in my opinion. Now, can they win the East? Like Detroit, I'm still like, I don't know. But like Knicks can win the East. But outside of that, like when you go to the Western Conference, it's like Thunder can win the championship, right? The Lakers, I don't like the Lakers, but the Lakers have a good squad. Denver can win a championship, right? Houston can win a championship. You can, those are just 4 teams. And then like, I haven't even talked about the rest. It just shows you
Right.
like there's levels, to these conference and stuff like that, right? Like Minnesota, no one talks about them, but they were just in the Western Conference the last 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're finally playing well. They had a heartbreaking loss, but they were on a win streak, right? It's tough, man, right? Like the Eastern Conference, like who you really rolling with? Like who do you trust the most? Like Detroit and New York, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's the tough part, right? Because the Pistons have the 1 seed, but I don't think people are necessarily sold at that. This is the best team in the Eastern Conference. They have the best record, but you're not necessarily like, oh yeah, this team is going to make it to the finals as long as they're healthy, right? It's not like Oklahoma City in the Western Conference, but they are good. It's just I don't think that Detroit probably makes a go all in move. I think they just kind of play it out and see, where that goes. And that kind of leaves some of these other teams. Like if you're Boston, do you go out and maybe get a center that's better than Nemias Queta, right? Who's been good. He's been really good. But like, do you upgrade at that spot, right? So your big man position can have a little bit more depth like last year, right? Or if you're Toronto, do you go and get AD? Or, if you're, Philly, what do you do there? So that's kind of a tricky one, in my opinion. And then obviously with the Bucks, you have that huge shakeup with Giannis, right? Where now everybody's at this point kind of leaning towards he's probably out of there. We don't know where he's going to go, right? The Knicks reportedly are the team he would prefer to go to if he had his say, which you would think he would probably have his say. I don't know what the package would be. I don't know if it would just be Giannis for town straight up, or is it like a 3-team deal where they send the wings elsewhere, like Bridges and Anunoby. I don't know, but what do you think about the Giannis situation, by the way? Because I know because I know since the last time we had done a regular episode, you weren't able to join us. But what do you think of that situation, just in terms of like, we were all kind of thinking that Giannis was probably not going to stay beyond the season, but I think we initially expected he would just play it out. But now it really does seem like he could just be out of there.
Dude, Giannis should have been left. Like, seriously, like, this team is bad. They were bad last year. They're not going to be good this year, right? Like, their biggest move was Miles Turner in free agency. Like, if that's your biggest move, man, we got problems, right? They waived and released Damian Lillard, right? They added players like Cole Anthony and like re-signed Gary Trent and Taurean Prince. Like, that's cool and all, but like, where's your star player? Like, those players are good when you have your number one player in Giannis with another star player, and then you could play with those role players, right? Like, you can operate with that team. But when you want those players to step up to kind of fill the role every single night, that's not going to happen, right? Then you also have Doc Rivers, not the greatest coach, bro. Like, having that duo of Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham is a disaster. I don't care what anybody says, man. Like, that's terrible. Now, they do have some bright spots. Like, I think AJ Green's pretty good, like one of the better shooters in the league and stuff like that. Obviously, Ryan, what's his name? Ryan Rollins?
Ryan Rollins.
Yeah, he has been amazing this year, right? Like, came out the blue and just been playing amazing basketball. But like, those two players are not going to convince Giannis to stay. You know what I mean? Like, the dude wants to win a championship. He knows he can't win in Milwaukee. And with him dealing with the injuries, obviously they just can't win a game. They just can't.
Right.
You know what I mean? The team just isn't good enough. The big question is, like, he wants to go to New York, but does New York even pull that trade off? Like, I don't see New York even doing that. I feel like they have to start struggling a little bit. Like, I don't think you break up a team that played 1 year together with Cat, and it's not like they're struggling. Like, they're not struggling. You know what I mean? So, like, I understand Giannis is a great player. I get that. But, like, I don't think you break up a team. So I don't think Knicks are a destination. But outside of that, it's like Miami maybe, right? Like, they trade Tyler. You start looking at teams. It's like, who does he really fit with? Like, Atlanta. I've been seeing Atlanta because they have the pieces, but I don't really like. You know what I mean? It's like Toronto. Like, I don't know. Like, does Toronto go out there and flip RJ and quickly? So it's tough, right? Like, Magic can't do anything. Boston won't do anything. Detroit's not going to do anything. Philly, doubt they do anything. Cleveland, maybe they flip Garland and Allen and have Giannis and Mitchell. I mean, that can be the big move, right? But why would he want to join Cleveland? Chicago, and then you start going down and talking about really bad teams. And then even when you look at the Western Conference, Thunder, Lakers, Nuggets, Rockets, that's not even this is not 2K. Like, that doesn't it's not going to work, right? The Spurs are an interesting piece because they have the younger pieces, they have the draft capital, and I mean, having Giannis and Wemby would be really fun, right? Like, that could be a team, but outside of that, it's like Minnesota, Phoenix, Warriors. So there's not a lot of options realistically for Giannis. So I'm curious to see where he does end up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny part, and it's funny because there was a guy that works for like the Chicago news station, right? His name was Lou Canellis, who's a sports anchor for Fox 32 Chicago, and he was reporting that Giannis and his representatives reached out to the Bulls about a potential deal, and the Bulls said they weren't interested, which just is kind of, I guess, classic Chicago for whatever reason. And then, as you mentioned, the thing with the Cavs is they're a second apron team, so they can't even really aggregate salaries anyways, right? It basically has to be like Mobley and Giannis, like a straight up 1-for-1 swap, and I don't know if Cleveland does that. I mean, obviously everybody's pretty high on Mobley. He hasn't taken the leap, but it's
I'll do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'll do that in a heartbeat.
You would do it if you're Cleveland?
Yeah, I'll do that in a heartbeat, bro. Mobley just hasn't really taken that next step, and it's like the Cleveland are in a position to win a championship, and it's like maybe they move off Allen and maybe Mobley plays. But then again, Allen has been injured, so like that excuse no more just doesn't exist. So like Mobley's playing the full time five. I just don't think Darius Garland's a very good player, and then after that it's Mitchell and Mobley, and then their role players are just they have pretty much just had to step up all year, and they just can't figure it out, man. You know what I mean? Like they played a bad Miami Heat team in the first round, and when they played a real good team in Indiana, they got exposed. And I don't like this year, dude. If they continue to keep playing like that, they're going to be a playing team.
Yeah.
So dude, if you could add a player like Giannis, you add a player like Giannis.
Yeah, and that's the question: is does Giannis want to go to Cleveland? I don't know, right? Because he wanted to go to the Knicks, and that wasn't able to get done. So usually, I mean, you would think like the stars just kind of get to say where they want to go. So if that's where he wants to go, you think, okay, that's probably what happens. I don't know when it's going to happen. It can't happen until December 15th, so which is like another week. But even then, it probably takes a little bit more time because he probably has to officially ask out, and then you have to kind of figure out, okay, all these other teams are going to call. What are the best offers? I mean, it's a circus right now. So it is what it is. But like at this point, the Bucks are maxed out in terms of what they can do. Like there's nothing they can do at this point that can put them in realistic contention. I mean they kind of emptied all the bullets in the chamber with all the moves they've done the last few years. And it's like, yeah, you traded for Dame and everybody was excited about it, but it just didn't work out, right? I mean, Giannis also got hurt, and then the fit wasn't quite as good as we thought. Surrounding pieces didn't quite work as well. Then they completely reconfigured it where it waived and stretched Dame to bring in Miles Turner. Turner's been okay, I guess. I mean, he's not necessarily probably been quite worth the money. And now I think Jake Fisher was reporting that there are teams that, let's say Giannis gets moved, they can move Miles Turner elsewhere, right? Like I think I saw that with the Warriors or maybe other teams that are looking for a center. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, it just hasn't worked out. I mean, they got a championship, so that's the main thing that matters. But it does kind of stink that, all right, now the Bucks are kind of in this tough spot where they don't really have their own picks. They don't have a lot of, great players on the roster outside of Giannis. So once they move on from him, unless they get back a surprisingly really good package, I think it's going to be really tough.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to recover for a long, long time. But yeah, man, it's gonna. I think it could either be a very fun trade deadline or it could be a very boring trade deadline, right? Like there's always rumors, right? Not all star players do get traded. I think one star player 100% does get traded. Mm-hmm. That can be between Zion, the LaMelo Ball, the Ja Morants, the Giannis's, right? Maybe even a Trey Murphy. Who knows? But then again, they don't have their first round pick, so they're probably trying to compete. So we'll see with that. I'm hoping it's Tyler Hero. I want him off my team. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been a very fun season. So far, with a lot of teams.
Yeah, and then I guess, since we might as well mention it, and kind of close it out, these upcoming Cup games, right? So tomorrow we have the Western Conference quarterfinal games, right? Where you got the Suns, OKC, and then the Spurs and the Lakers, and then obviously, the Knicks and the Magic will play each other. So what are you seeing tomorrow in terms of like what is your kind of thought process on both of these matchups, right? Because like Suns have been playing really well, right? Like I mean, if people haven't noticed, like the Suns are currently 7th in the Western Conference. They're 6-4 in their last 10. I think that's with Devin Booker being out for a few games. He had a groin injury against the Lakers, and then Jalen Green's only played in like 1 or 2 games. Dillon Brooks has been fantastic. Colin Gillespie has been great, and it's almost kind of just they got rid of the stars in terms of moving on from Durant and Beal. And for Durant, it worked out in Houston because Houston's been really good. Didn't really work out for Beal with the Clippers. But, all these different pieces that Phoenix has brought in where all of a sudden now, like, it is a more sensible roster, right? Like, they are better on the defensive end, right? They get out and run. They play hard. I think they're 12th in offensive rating, and then defensive rating, they're 11th. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, considering where they were last year. I mean, especially on the defensive end, Mark Williams has been a godsend for them at the center spot, now to the point where Nick Richards, who started last year, he doesn't play as much, right? Like it's Mark Williams, Iguodala, maybe sometimes Richards, and then some small ball. But, I mean, it's a fun team, right? And this was a team that Yarb and I picked the over on going into the season, but that was kind of a zag, right? Because I don't think most people expected this team to be very good, but they've been better than expected, but I feel like it's going to be tough against Oklahoma City. Although, to be fair, the last time they played them in the Cup, they almost took that game, right? So, now, and that was with Jalen Williams back. Hartenstein's out, but I mean, you'd expect OKC to be the favorite in this one because they're just a better team. But Phoenix could give them a run for their money. It's just, without Booker, assuming he doesn't play, then it's probably going to be a little bit tricky to pull off a win like that. But mainly, I just kind of want to see, OKC continue to showcase their dominance. They're 23-1. It doesn't matter who they play. I know they've had a relatively easy schedule, but what do you think?
Yeah, when it comes to OKC, man, I don't even discuss. They're the best team in the world, best team in the league. This game will be over in the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and Booker's listed as questionable, but regardless of whether or not he plays, I think it's going to be really tough for them. OKC is pretty locked in. Like you said, what more can be said about them? They're awesome. I mean, there's a bunch of players on the roster who look like they've gotten even better. Like SGA looks better. Chet Holmgren looks better. I mean, even guys like Isaiah Joe, AJ Mitchell. We've talked about this in some of our previous episodes, but it is cool to see. It's awesome to see just how dominant they've been. But then you have the second game, Spurs-Lakers. Now, I believe not long before we got on, Wemby was ruled out because he was practicing with the team, but we weren't quite sure whether or not he was going to play. So he was ruled out, but it seems like most of the other guys, like Castle, I think he came back in their last game against New Orleans. So most of their other guys are going to be back minus Wemby. And then on the Lakers injury report, they're pretty much going to have all their guys. I think Kleba is the only guy that's listed as questionable. But, I mean, even then, so obviously Spurs without Wemby. But without Wemby, they've been playing really well, right? Like we've highlighted the way the Hawks have played and the way the Magic played without their stars. But the Spurs were 8-3, in the games that Wemby's missed. And many of those games also included Stephon Castle not playing either, right? So, if you're the Lakers, I think this is still a matchup where the Spurs could pull this off, right? Like, while Wemby's been out, they look different. They play more of an offensive-oriented style, right? They, spread the floor. Fox has been great. Harper, since he's come back, has been awesome. Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, Luke Cornett, everybody just up and down the roster has just contributed on both ends of the floor. And it's been really fun and super impressive because when Wemby first went out, I think we were all kind of thinking this team might be in trouble, right? Where, when you lose your best player and we don't know what to expect from these guys. But, this is why you go out and get a De'Aaron Fox, right? He's been averaging, 25 a game. Basically, being the number one option for them while Wemby's been out with all these other guys playing well. So I think this will still, even without Wemby, I think this could still be a fun matchup, right? But, if you're the Lakers, you should win this game because the Spurs don't have Wemby. But you just never know, right? Because if the Spurs get hot, they've been really good offensively while Wemby's been out. It could be really tricky, right? Because I think, if, in terms of the last 10 games for the San Antonio Spurs, they're 6th in offensive rating. Right now, defensive rating, they've not been quite as good, 24th, which you expect. They've not been very good when Wemby is off the floor on the defensive end. But just in terms of them being able to get hot and just run the floor, get out in transition, crash the glass. They got a lot of, they have other guys with size. Cornette could be a problem. So I would still expect a competitive game. And both teams have been really good in the clutch as well, right? In terms of late game execution, the Lakers are 8-0 in crunch time games, and then Spurs are not far behind them either, right? And some of those games were without Wemby. So I would expect this to probably be a more entertaining matchup, presumably, than the Suns Thunder, but you just never know. But what do you think?
Yeah, man, no, this is going to be a fun matchup. I'm looking forward to this. Definitely going to watch this game for sure. I do think the Lakers pull it out, right? Like Luka Doncic and AR is just too good. Too good of a duel, especially when, you don't have your top defender out there. I do think Castle, obviously being there, does help. Harper is playing some really good basketball in the last couple games. And this is why, like you said, man, this is why they traded for De'Aaron Fox. I know a lot of people said, hey, they might have to trade De'Aaron Fox. No, you don't trade him because Harper and Castle is going to take time for them to be that star guy. So in the meantime, you could stay competitive with De'Aaron Fox, who is ready, was already a star in this league, and he's already showing that, right, leading his team to win games and stuff like that. And also, too, this team had Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. Those used to be their star guys before, the Wembys and, the De'Aaron Fox came in. So those guys are proven scorers as well. Julian Champagnie and, low-key addition during the offseason and Luke Cornett. So they got a squad over there looking forward to it. I believe last time they played with Wemby being there was a very close game
Yeah,
down the stretch
it
once
was.
again. Yep. So I'm excited, and especially with the cup being on the line, LeBron being back, I definitely think it's going to be a show. But like I said, I think the Lakers just having Luka right there just gives you the advantage, and they're not having their number 1A guy is going to be a disadvantage. But either way, though, I think Spurs are a very good team. Looking very interesting to see how they do in the postseason because they're obviously going to be a postseason team this year. And if they get matched up with the Houston Rockets, which they will if the season ends today, man, oh man, that's a matchup that you're watching every night because you don't know who wins that series. Even though I think the Rockets obviously have the more experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Spurs are just a younger, more athletic. I want to say maybe as more athletic, but just a faster team overall. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
there's a lot of mystique with the Spurs because we haven't seen Wemby in a playoff series at all,
Yeah.
and there's just you just never know if he has a coming out party in year 3 where he just is the best player on the floor. Combined with what you could get from these other guys, you never know, they could pull it off. I mean, because some of their other guys haven't had postseason experience in addition to Wemby, that's where you would probably lean Houston, but you never know. Houston in the playoffs could look a little bit different on the offensive end because for them they've been like basically the number one offense for a while now. It may have changed, but they for a while they were basically the best offense in the league because of all the offensive rebounds. They shoot threes well, even though they don't take a lot of them. I think so now they're fourth in offensive rating, which is still good, right? But you probably didn't expect it to stay number one. But they've also had some guys in and out. Like Şengün's missed the last couple of games, and he's super important to what they do. So this early in the season could kind of change up stuff. So it's going to be fun. I'm with you. I would say the Lakers probably pull it out, but I still think it'll be a competitive one. I don't expect the Spurs to get blown out. I think that they're going to compete and give it their all because they want to win too, right? With a chance to go to Vegas. But like you said, having the offensive firepower that the Lakers have, right, especially in a close game, could be really tricky because that's how they've been able to win all these close games, right? Like even in the last couple of games where, like, say against the Raptors, Luka's out, Austin Reeves, no problem, 40 points, and then LeBron gives it to Rui for the game winner. Or the Philly game, right, where LeBron had kind of struggled in the previous couple of games, and he kind of got back into it with setting screens and everything. So I think that's going to be a really fun matchup. But I like I said, I would still probably lean Lakers, and then I guess once whenever we talk about the Western Conference ones, we'll probably talk about who wins the Knicks Magic one. But yeah, either way, so far enjoying these cup games. And which one did you prefer today? Because I mean, I guess the final score for the for the Heat Magic was double digits, but that one technically was more competitive over the course of the game, so probably that one.
Yeah, East is just not very fun.
Mm. Yeah, so
Like,
and that's the funny thing because there have been teams in the East that I think have been better than expected, but there still hasn't been a team that's like Oklahoma City, which I don't think anybody expected anyways. But and just like in general, you just feel like, okay, how many teams could you go down? Like, what's the worst team that could come out of the West that could still possibly win against whoever comes out of the East? That's kind of a fun exercise.
bro, I got you, Minnesota. Bro, and not maybe not this year, Minnesota, but like the
Mm-hmm,
Minnesotas, those teams could win the East,
mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
right? Like they
yeah.
won the what they went to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need a point guard. But yeah, that's kind of a question that I've thought about. Is like if you go down the Western Conference standings, like what's the worst team that could come out of there, where you could say, oh, they could actually still have a chance to win it all, even if you go past Phoenix, right? Like like could the Warriors pull it off like against some of these Eastern Conference teams?
Nah, nah,
You
nah,
know,
nah, nah. Warriors are horrible. Warriors are horrible.
I'm just posing the question, but yeah, but just the fact that you can go down 6 spots, like, is still kind of significant, right? Like, that's like how many Eastern Conference teams could you go down the list and say they're beating a Western Conference team? Like, I don't.
No, I don't think none actually.
Right, like especially if it's OKC, like that's the issue. Like if
None of
OKC
them.
comes out, I can't really. And you never say never. I mean, Indiana took OKC to 7, but that was last year. This year's OKC team, I think, is better, and it's going to be tougher as long as they're healthy. Of course, injuries always play a part, but then,
And
that's
honestly,
yeah,
it don't even matter if they're healthy or not. They're still winning games. Yeah,
yeah. I
it's
mean,
like
They're
Yeah,
awesome.
obviously in the playoffs is different, but like right now, bro, they lost J Dub, they lost Hartenstein. Like, yo, they don't matter like who they have out there. They're just gonna find a way to win.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how Oklahoma City's been this season. So it's going to be interesting to see if some of these teams can kind of step up to the plate and do something, and maybe figure out a way to beat them. But regardless, pretty much we've hit that mark in terms of the amount of time we're probably going to spend on this. So we appreciate everybody who joined out on the stream. Of course, as we've said many, many times, continue to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials at the OBT Podcast. We appreciate you for watching. We'll see you next time.